Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch. Well, hello, Radiant Beings. It's just Tracy today. It's another solo episode. Amy is off on a super secret mission to achieve her goals, and she'll come back next episode and tell us all about it, hopefully. But for now, I get the kind of scary job to record today solo. Uh, which is kind of a weird thing when you think about it, that this feels so scary to just sit in my office by myself, staring at my own reflection in my computer screen, and just talking. But it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit uncomfortable. It's very unknown. And so when I was kind of thinking about, well, what do you want to sit in a room and talk to yourself about while recording? I was thinking, you know what? Let's just lean in to that fear. Let's lean into the scariness. Let's lean into the spooky season. And let's talk about scary things. What are you scared about in your life? What are you currently afraid of? Where can you be scared and do it anyways? So we talk a lot on the show, as is our name, about, being your brightest self. And what does that look like? And sometimes in order to be our brightest self, we talk a lot about shadows on here. We talk a lot about shining the light on the things we maybe don't want to think about. One thing that's been coming up for me lately is I have a lot of goals that I just haven't put any effort behind, that I just haven't pursued with the same amount of tenacity and fervor that I do with so many other goals and things. And when I kind of sat down and, had a good little analysis moment of myself, self analysis, I acknowledged it's because I'm afraid. It's because I'm scared, and it's not, that stereotypical, oh, I'm afraid to fail. It's not that. That's a very valid reason to have. Failure is a very valid fear to have. But some of mine, it's not that simple. It's not something that if I failed at, I'd like lose my house, or I'd lose respect, or it would cause some huge major change or loss in my life. It's not the kind of fear that's preventing me from doing it. And so I want to propose, as we've been doing this whole business of being you, kind of self-reflection series this year, that if you too have some stuff in your life that you've been afraid to approach, afraid to do differently, that you join me on this fear analysis and kind of taking that fear outside of you, and kind of turning it around and taking a look at it, and examining it. And before we put it back in and do it anyways, and do it well, even if we are kind of scared. So, my sister Casey, who's been on this show before, I don't remember the exact kind of where we were, what we were doing, or even exactly what she said, but one compliment or feedback that I've ever gotten in life is nothing's really stuck with me as much as hers. One day she just said, "Well, like, you're just not afraid of anything." And that shocked me because I feel like I'm afraid of everything. And so when I've started to kind of pick apart these things that I am afraid about, I had to acknowledge that I'm not afraid of some standard things. or the standard things people tend to be afraid of are the things that I just approach and just go for. There's quite a few things where kind of my mantra or personal quote is, if it's scared, maybe it's a good thing to try. And by scared I don't mean like ignoring that some things are just stupid or harmful or dangerous. But I've jumped out of an airplane before. I'm terrified of heights. I would totally, when I was a little kid, my Barbies went bungee jumping, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things in the physical realm that other people kind of look at and they're like, oh God, no, I couldn't do that. And I do kind of, take the bull by the horns with those ones and just have a, first to jump in the pool kind of a mentality. And just rip the band-aid off, get it over with, get it done, experience exhilaration, because the scary part, the fear part goes away pretty quickly once you realize you're having fun, and once you realize you can trust yourself, and once you realize you are safe. But all of those things I just said that I've done have been done um, with a whole lot of research or support or other people who, I did not jump out of a plane by myself. Not, don't recommend. And quite honestly, I feel like your first time jumping a plane, I'm pretty sure you have to do it tandem, which is the best way to do something scared is when you're physically attached to somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. Um, but the type of things that I haven't approached in my life, the goals and the tasks, sometimes even just the thoughts and the reflections and things like that. Those things, when I took them out and I kind of looked at them and was like, why are you so scary to me? Why don't you scare other people? If I were to be this person in my life who I know, or this TV or movie or book character who has done these things, what's the difference between them and me? Are they just doing it scared and they're better at it? And I just can't figure out the right approach to do it scared? Or is there something else there? What's the true fear, right? So I had terrible social anxiety. I still do sometimes. And for me, I'm not afraid of other people. And I'm not even afraid other people are going to be mean to me, or that other people, um, are going to try and harm me or hurt me or humiliate me or anything like that. I realize I'm just afraid of embarrassing myself. And that no matter how much I tell myself, like, nobody thinks of you as much or in the way that you think of you, and that most people, when they think back at about you, are not thinking about the top 10 most embarrassing things you've ever done in their presence. That's solely going on in your brain, Tracy. I had to realize, like, my true fear there is embarrassment. And my fear of embarrassment was getting in the way of me having connections with other people and true intimacy with other people, and that I was avoiding going out and doing things. Some of my social anxiety when I was younger had to deal with not liking my appearance, not feeling comfortable in my body, not feeling comfortable in my clothes or my style or my um, or how I could do my makeup or my hair. And these, at that time when I really tackled my social anxiety a couple of years ago, um, I decided that being embarrassed or looking bad or feeling uncomfortable um, was better than the feeling of staying at home alone and missing out or feeling left out. And that once I really approached it from that way, I was better able to start going out and join a dating app, go to classes and try and make new friends, talk to new people at the office. Once I realized I wasn't actually afraid of other people, I was afraid, and I wasn't even afraid of how those people were going to, um, see me or view me. I was actually just afraid of being embarrassed. I was then able to start to think about ways, okay, if you are embarrassed, how can we handle that? How can we feel those feelings when, you're falling asleep and your brain's like, hey, remember that thing you did in 10th grade that was, just utterly, utterly humiliating. I can now sit and feel that humiliation and just let it pass. And recognize I'm not gonna die. Nobody else probably remembers it. And if they do, boy, isn't that a funny story. I was able to take better ownership of things in the moment too, so that now in the future, or even right now, when I do say or do something embarrassing, stupid, humiliating, which let's face it, we're all bound to do, knock on wood. I hope I have loads more life left in me. So that's going to be loads more opportunities for this fear to become actualized and realized, um, that I can just learn and grow from it, or make a joke about it in the moment and turn it into something else. And instead of it being an embarrassing memory and something, a memory I become afraid of, and then carry that fear with me that potentially might prevent me from doing something else in the future I want to do, I can try and reframe it and take better ownership of it, or just recognize, like, hey, you know what, in 10 years when I'm falling asleep, I'm going to get to revisit this moment. And won't that be fun? So if you have something you're scared of right now, or that you haven't started, see if you can name it and see if you can figure out what the core of that fear is. See if that core has a root cause somewhere in your life, right? See if maybe you can tackle it at the source. But if not, maybe start to name some solutions, some possible resources you have to combat it if anything does happen. But try and approach your life and these fears with that whole mindset of be scared, do it anyways. Um, I'm not even going to tell you have courage and be brave. Just hold fierce hand and be like, hey, we're jumping into the pool. Let's get this over with. Let's get this done so you can get on your way. Uh, so sometimes these fears, they can be something like a goal, like starting something big, something that could potentially change your life. It could be something like a task. I have a handful of things in my house, or that's just been on my to-do list forever, um, that I just either don't want to do because I know I'm not going to be good at it, and I'm afraid of having to deal with those consequences of not being perfect the first time. Um, or just like this fear of just like I'm not prepared to do them, um, that it's completely new, um, and it's completely different for me, and the fear for some of those things is just that the process is going to suck. The outcome could possibly suck. Um, Again, we talk about this all the time. I don't like struggling in public. So the fact that some of these tasks and things are related to my house and home. And so there could be just like a potentially lifelong reminder, or display to the world that I don't know how to do this thing and I did it anyways. But I'm sitting here dealing with this fear of not starting these things, right? I'm avoiding this scary thing. And so, for a big goal, one of them might be, we talk about on the show a lot. What if you want to write a book, right? So let's see, writing a book in and of itself, especially if it's something you want to do, if those characters are just in your head and you just have this great story you want to explore, that sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe writing's your hobby or your passion, but all of a sudden you just get like a brain freeze or a writer's block, or maybe you just can't even start. You've never even started trying to write a book. Are Look at it and see, like, what are all the different things in that, right? Like, are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of not getting published? Are you afraid of being a bad writer? Are you afraid of people not liking it, right? Like, see if you can kind of narrow down what it is, that it is that's scary to you, so that you can kind of figure out what's the scary thing I'm actually avoiding. Uh, and then kind of look at your fear response and say, all right, do I have fight, flight, fawn, or freeze when it comes to this goal or task, process, whatever it is you're avoiding? Are you a worrier? Are you just completely stuck and so you're not starting anything? Are you in analysis paralysis? Are you worried about what other people might think and so you're not doing what you want to do, and instead you're doing what you think other people want you to do? Are you physically running away from the thing? Or are you being unnecessarily defensive and combative in your life instead of approaching it? Um, so find your power in those negative feelings, right? So a lot of times, we talk when it comes to fear, we do run away from it. We do try and hide from it. Um, but that thing is still under our bed and it's keeping us up at night. So once you kind of label like, okay, am I fighting, flying, fawning, or freezing? You can kind of see what your approach to being able to do it scared and do it anyways would be. Once you have that, uh, one thing that I think when it comes to fear, so many of us have the same fears, right? So many of us have a fear of flying. So many of us have that fear of heights, have these different phobias, um, have these fear of failure. And yet, even though everybody has these fears and they're really common, even though a lot of people aren't talking about them, we're all going through it. And I think it's a lot easier to feel scared when you're alone. It's a lot easier to feel scared when you're isolated. The world is a very scary place to do all by yourself. And so look and see where you're maybe isolating yourself and forcing yourself to be alone with this fear, maybe where you're hiding, maybe where you are keeping secrets, and seeing where maybe you might be able to say that fear out loud to somebody else in a safe way. This does not have to be somebody who's going to become your taskmaster or your hand holder, but somebody that becomes aware, um, like a safety partner, a safety check kind of a thing of where you are in your fear, and that they can help ground you and bring you back to it, or that you can, whistle, and they'll come and they'll find you and help you get back to safety. So, I do a lot of stuff alone in my life. I like to go hiking by myself, little day trips, explore new cities, do new things. But as a single lady who also lives alone and does a lot of and works from home alone, I hope I'm not giving anybody a play-by-play book on how to come and scare me in person. But one of the things I do is with people in my life, I do a safety check and I tell them where I'm going to go, when I'm going to be there, when I should be back. We have a safe word or a code word, so that when I am done, they know that it's me checking in and saying, hey, I'm okay. And while that's a very like grounded in this big, scary physical world that we're in, kind of a safety check, you can do that with your friends. So for me, when I wanted to jump out of an airplane, I texted everybody and said, hey, I'm going to jump out of an airplane for my birthday, and I'd love if you would do it with me. And if you don't want to do it with me, I would love if you would come and hang out with me beforehand and then watch me do it and then celebrate after. Um, and so that I don't have to do this alone or do this with strangers. And my family and friends showed up for me. And apologies to my stepfather because the only people in the family to agree to jump out of a plane with me were his only two biological children. Um, and then a friend of mine's fiance at the time. But it was so nice to know that they were in the plane with me. And because there were so many of us, like the whole family came out and watched us jump. And I honestly think they were more scared to watch us do the scary thing than we were to actually do it. And I think the same can be true when you go to like write a book, that you can have a friend that you talk to both help keep you accountable, but then also be your safety net when you get too scared and when you get to these moments where you have to take a step, where you're not taking a step alone in the dark, and that maybe someone there is shining a light for you or waiting for you at the finish line, and knows that you're on your way. And so pay attention to, where am I afraid because I'm isolated? Where am I afraid because I don't have people I can trust to keep me safe in this? And see if maybe adding that buddy system to your goal, from a safety perspective and from a fear perspective, and from just having someone in your life where you can say the scary thing out loud, where you can name it. So many horror stories out there are all about, don't say the name 3 times or something like that. But I'm a big proponent of, the things that go bump in the night don't want to be known about, don't want to be seen, don't want to be believed in by the masses. Because honestly, if you've ever watched a horror movie, the ones that do it really good are the ones that don't share the scary monster. Usually, once they share the scary monster in the light, it's not so scary anymore. Usually the scariest part about a horror movie is the music, and it's not even the music, it's the anticipation and the suspense it builds. So see if you can name your monster, see if you can find its face and find the humor in it, and so that as you go through it, when you do get scared, you could recognize it's really not that bad after all. So, like I said, I'm not uh I'm a just jump in the pool, jump off the cliff kind of a person. But with that said, I'm also not necessarily a best case scenario imagination kind of girl. So sometimes we do have things that do just worry us. And one thing we can do is we can try and change what we think about it, and you can try and imagine the best case scenario. And if that pulls you through, great. For me personally, I don't like to be limited by what I think is the best case scenario. I like the world to kind of surprise me with things that are even bigger and grander. So I just like to encourage you. Maybe you don't have anything you're scared of, or taking it out and reframing these things has really changed how you view it and you feel better about approaching it. But try and look for the fear in life. Look for where you can. If you be scared and still try it anyways. Sometimes fear is just that fear of the unknown. And so seeing where you can go in your life, where you can have that curiosity and approach it with hands trembling, body shaking, and just do it anyways. So if anything popped up in your mind while I've been rambling, think about that thing that you've always wanted to try or that you've been actively avoiding, what's waited one more year for far too many years, and seeing if you're ready to just jump in that deep end, see if you're ready to just do it. Um, because a lot of these things, we sit in that fear because they take initiative to get out of our path. Either initiative to just approach it and do it, or initiative to run away. So if you don't want to sit in fear anymore and just worry, right? Like maybe you're thinking of doing stuff alone, traveling, eating at a new restaurant, having a new experience. Maybe you're partnered and you've been avoiding having an overdue conversation or some sort of conflict, even something that is in alignment with your goals for both of you and is a good thing, but you're still just kind of afraid to talk about it. Um, Maybe you're thinking about joining a dating app or becoming partnered. Maybe you've been afraid of having your heart broken again, or maybe you've been afraid of not uh, of planning something, planning maybe a not fun thing, preparing for something, preparing for the worst can kind of be scary. And sometimes emergency madness, emergency preparedness. As we look to the news, we can kind of see, that avoidance of not preparing for a terrible thing to happen doesn't prevent the thing from happening. So is there a doctor's appointment you've maybe been putting off because you don't want to get bad news? The scary thing about that is that news is there whether or not you know it, right? Um, and then there's like the fun and exciting things. Like maybe there's, oh God, by the time I was 50, I thought I would have gone bungee jumping. Um, Sign up. Let's do it. If there's anything the past 2 years has taught us, it's that nothing is guaranteed and there is no new normal and there's never going to be an opportune time. And so it's important to have that skill set of being able to do it scared, being able to be scared and do it anyways. Um, you know, being scared and thinking it's still a good thing to try or a good thing to do. So, with that, I don't know. This is kind of a scary episode. I didn't really have much of a conclusion planned for today, other than hopefully, Amy and I, if you don't have someone in your life that you feel you can trust to hold your scary feelings with, Amy and I are here. this episode is here. So even if you don't interact or engage with us on social media or anything like that, or in real life in person, just know that we're here and we're doing it scared too. And we're trying scary things, and we're going to try and approach it with curiosity where we don't have bravery, and with tenacity where we maybe don't have a whole lot of experience. And I hope that that helps. So, if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I hope you have a bright and beautiful day.